Welcome to the September 11th OpenJ9 community call. As we do every week, we'll open things up to any community discussion right off the bat. If there are things that people want to talk about or give lightning talks, that would be great. I know there's a lot of interesting work going on, and has been a lot of interesting work going on around shared classes, around default images, around having multiple images, multiple caches be available, improvements for Docker. There's other areas that are improvements as well. And so if people are interested in and able to give lightning talks on that, I think that would be great to get some of this more visible to the broader community.
I think there should be, it should be possible to do one on one of the topics I think you mentioned there, multiple shared classes. Perhaps next week I'll talk to the right developer and see if he can engage on that. We did some experiments with that feature that should be worthwhile sharing.
I think that would be great. I won't be able to make the next call. I'll be at Code 1, but I'm sure Pete or someone else will be available to run the call.
Okay, I'll coordinate with Pete if he can make it. Yeah, we'll do it next week.
If other people have other areas they'd like to talk about there for lightning talks, we're more than happy to have those and get those scheduled in. So we'll take a quick look at the user-raised issues, the things that have come in since the last one of these calls. In particular, OpenJ9 seems not to shrink memory after a GC. This was new to me. I see that there's been some discussion there.
I think we need to change the docs for this one.
Yeah.
The docs seem to imply it's a 0 to 100 base value, but it's 0.0 to 1.0.
Yeah, we'll have to get that updated to open a doc issue for that. And I think it'll be good to see if Alex has a chance to take a look at that GC log as well. Something for us to follow up on again next week if this hasn't happened. All right. And then the segmentation error. The rest of these look like they would have been ones we discussed on the previous call. So I think unless there's something in this list that somebody wants to call out explicitly, I think we'll jump back to the agenda. So thank you to Andrew for uploading the downloads and Docker Hub pull stats.
Right, I just did that.
So looking at the trend lines on this, we're continuing to trend upward, which is good. It'd be concerning if we weren't going up.
Yeah.
In terms of our share, we seem to be on a slight decline right now.
It depends. If you look at it overall, it's upwards, but it's still quite a short period of time, really.
Yeah. We're still in the 3% range.
Yeah.
Last week we had talked about whether we could track the JDK 8 and 11 trends separately.
Yeah, so I can do that. I've not had time to look at that yet, unfortunately. I'll try and do that shortly.
Okay. Do you have an idea of when you might be able to get that pulled together?
I might be able to do it by the end of this week. There's just lots of interrupts at the moment. So I had a look at there was another question about the official Docker downloads, I think. I don't know, was that? Can't see that listed in your list there, but and that's a bit tricky because the Docker official downloads are not segregated by version or hotspot OpenJ9. They're all lumped under Adopt OpenJDK official. So I'm not sure. So they're not included in those figures there, right? But everything else is. So you can get that overall figure if you just go to the dash.adopt.openjdk, but you can't tell from it what are hotspot and what are OpenJ9.
Does Docker not provide a way to track downloads based on the tags?
Not that I'm aware of. Looking at the adopt scripts that get the information, it seems that the method to get the download stats from the official Docker repo is somewhat obscure. It seems to be only available by the folder, which is adopt OpenJDK. It doesn't look as though the tags underneath that are tracked.
Okay. That's unfortunate, but
Yeah, it is. Yeah, unfortunate. But,
all right. Any other comments, questions around download stats?
nothing from me.
Then let's move on to looking at our releases. The 0.15.1 release, of course, has been out. There are just two items that are still outstanding there. One is the AIX build. Did we ever get that completed?
It was completed, but we didn't publish it because of the failures. But we're sort of we're sort of working on the JDK 13 at the moment.
Okay, so the idea is we won't publish.
I think if everyone's okay with that, I'm not sure. Given it's only obviously not supported anymore. 12 from Oracle. I'm not sure it's. Given we're more worrying about AIX on 13 at the moment, that's probably where we need to push up our effort on AIX.
Well, we don't know when we're going to have a build for AIX on 13 because it's using XLC 16 and we don't have that working yet.
Is that not going to be imminent? Or we just don't know? It's how long's a piece of string, isn't it? That sounds it.
We're working through the problems one at a time. So every time we fix one, another one pops up. So we don't know when we're going to get to the end of the train.
Yeah. So we could rebuild the 12.
I was just going to say, we are intending to re-release 12 for Mac because of people requesting it. We could, at that time, maybe run these platforms as well.
Yeah, we could do the AX one again, and I mean, it literally was half a dozen failures, but one of them was a crash, I think. I remember Stuart saying.
Are they failures that we believe are intermittent failures or real failures?
I can't remember that going back through them. No, I think, as Shelley said, let's rebuild them. We can rebuild it, as you say. We're doing Mac for some other purpose. I can't remember what.
Yeah, that's to pick up the notarization fixes that went in and were re-released in 11, but not 12. And it's for the Eclipse team and for the Elastic team, who have both requested it. So adding another platform on that run wouldn't be the worst thing.
Yeah.
I think we're going to either do that Thursday or Friday, so tomorrow or the next day. But I guess we should add a note or create an issue saying that we want to rebuild it so that it's tracked.
Okay. For the Mac OS builds, and it sounds like the notarization issues have been worked out.
One thing has been worked out. I think the other issue is larger, and it's actually waiting on upstream an OpenJDK approach to the fix because it affects everyone.
Is that the use of JLink or something else?
I don't know. I'll have to look and see. The last I had seen of this, that was still an open issue at Adopt, which then refers to work being done at OpenJDK. I'll find the link and put it in the notes here.
Okay. All right. I'm going to open up these JDK 13 release plan then, because that's the next major thing we need to be looking at, which is actually down to 4 issues now, which is still higher than I'd like. One of them being the issue for tracking the release tags and SHAs, so that's fine. There's a test failure with the JIT on pLinux.
Yes, that was only discovered because that was a test case that's been excluded for a long time, and we unexcluded it because it seems to pass on practically all platforms. And then we discovered pLinux was failing for this, looks like a JIT issue, rather bizarre one. But adding up numbers wrong. So.
Ida, see that you've self-assigned this, and Alan has mentioned he's looking at it. Do you have any update on this?
Hi, Dan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Yeah, just yesterday Alan started looking. I need to ask him like after this meeting. No update yet.
Okay.
But I'll talk to him immediately.
Okay. Thank you. This particular one, we have a test case that reproduces it. The crash being some ROM class corruption, actually. We have one particular test case that has been able to reproduce this. We haven't been able to find the root cause yet. I'm optimistic we may be able to find that. But we're getting very close to the deadline. I'll need to confirm whether this was previously shipped or not to determine whether we can slide it out or not. I'm just going to make a note here. And then, of course, there's our favorite issue of AIX not building with XLC 16. I know we've been pushing a number of changes for this. The last thing I saw was something get reverted.
Yeah, so we were adding a link against the C++ library, which worked fine for OpenJ9, not so good for the IBM build. So I've reverted that temporarily while we see if we could fix that better.
Okay. What was the issue? Is it the library not available or some other problem?
I put it in the reverts and in the original issue. I think it said not found. I could pull it up if you give me a few seconds.
It would be good if we can get all of these XLC 16 issues linked into this particular issue, just so we can track what's gone in and what's been pulled out.
Sure. It says cannot find or open library file -L space C++.
Okay.
So I've also pinged the developer to take a look.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're going to very quickly come to the point of making the go no go call on being able to ship AIX and 13. Given we want to be able to ship as close to the same point as OpenJDK, we're rapidly running at a runway to get this resolved.
Yep, I'm assuming that we'll go without it unless it happens to be ready in time. And since we haven't compiled it, we haven't run any tests, so we don't know what the testing story is going to look like.
I'm leaning towards a no-go on this, given we haven't been able to run the testing and haven't done any validation on it.
Yeah, it seems pretty likely at this point.
But as we're pulling these patches together, I'd like to see them go into master first and not immediately into the 016 branch, just on the chance that it's going to cause any instability.
Makes sense, although I think the ones that have gone in are specific to AIX, so.
Okay.
So quick question, when you say haven't been able to run testing on this, are you saying testing is not working, or you just haven't had time?
We don't have a JDK to run it on yet.
Okay, so it's not a testing is broken statement.
No, the build is broken, and so
Yeah.
since we have no build, we can't run the tests.
Gotcha. So you could say the build is broken, so that you don't have to.
I wanted to make sure you were awake.
Okay. I was clearly a little groggy because I was slow to pick up on that.
Let's limit the PR for this going into 016. Oh, we're looking to ship it. All right. So I think that gets us through the 016 release. List of items here. We're rapidly coming up on the go, no-go decision on all of these. If there are other items or other crashes that we believe are going to affect the ability to get 016 out the door, please speak up as soon as possible on what those may be. And hopefully we have no surprises between now and the 17th. We've already discussed the XLC 16 status. .017, we had talked about the fact that Omar is doing a release on October 4th. Mark, is that still the target date?
Yeah, that's still the target date. No one voiced any interest in a different date. We're right now, actually I'm not 100% sure that I'm in the release review process right now because I haven't gotten very much feedback from Eclipse on that. But as far as I know, the release plan has been submitted and it's going up for review on with a vote on September 18th. The IP log has been submitted and approved by Wayne, so it looks like things are moving forward.
Okay, so one thing we need to get filled in here is figuring out what our initial dates are. and backdate, when our milestone builds need to be, when the code split needs to occur. So Peter, I can get those dates filled in, hopefully before the next meeting.
Yeah, we can see how it matches up.
Is there anything else on the upcoming JDK 8, 11, and 13 release that people want to get on the radar?
FYI, we haven't promoted Omar since last week. Something got delivered into OMR, which has broken Mac builds. And I've also heard that if we import a new OMR, it's going to impact 32-bit. Not sure about platforms, maybe Windows at least.
I think the Mac issue is related to the 32-bit issue. It was the enabling of the J profiling in Omar.
So that is blocking other things from getting through. I don't know if there's anything we could do to turn that off or revert something so that we could import new OMR.
I'll speak to the developer immediately after the meeting and get an update on that. I think we can revert a piece.
Okay. Yeah, it would be good to get that through so we're not sitting on any other breakage. Thanks, Philip. Any other topics we want to discuss there?
By the way, Dan, Peter, the milestone 2 build for 13, which was submitted yesterday. Unfortunately, there were a test pipeline issue last night that was only fixed last night, so I've had to resubmit it. So although the binaries are available, I'm currently rebuilding it and republishing it and putting it through the test pipeline.
Okay. When the builds are up, can you provide us the links so we can take a look at them and make sure there are no surprises?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's going to be a bit of a while, I'm afraid, though. But, hopefully later this evening.
All right. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah.
All right. Shelley, do you want to take us through an adopt update?
Yeah, I guess just quickly, I threw the links into the two kind of Mac build issues that we just talked about a minute ago. There, the notarization stuff has fixed, and we're just re-releasing for 12 to make sure 12 includes it. 11's already been released with the fix. The hardened runtime issue is the one that's still waiting on an upstream story. Obviously, there will be some prep work, as Andrew mentioned, to check that our machines, builds, and tests are ready for the upcoming release. Because we have been cleaning up and making sure we have a common naming strategy, last night we had to fix some of the test pipeline that was broken due to a change in naming. I need to check, but I believe that the GPU support has been enabled, so I'm going to take this off of the minutes. Thanks to Keith stepping in as well to help out, and Stuart. And just a note that we've added another TSC member, Henrik Evers from Karakun, has joined the TSC, and currently he's looking at the OpenJFX item. He's going to take that work and tidy it up and make sure we're doing the right thing at the project with that work. I think that's about it. I don't have an update on the time zone stuff. Andrew, anything new there?
Dave is still working through a potential contribution with there. It's hopefully not going to be too far away. But I've not heard. I know Martin was originally looking also at the Azul solution,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure that was going to fly given their open source reluctancy.
Right, yeah.
Plus, if we can use the IBM one, or IBM based one,
That I mentioned Azul and others. There is I should put this maybe here, but there is a TSE issue. There will be an upcoming meeting at Oracle Code 1 with the TSE members that are attending, and the rest of us will phone in to talk with the other builders, implementers. There had been a request from them that we adopt a place that hosts or at least guides people in all of their options. So we're going to discuss that and the criteria that we would place on the implementers and builders if we proceed with that story. There's a list of criteria that we expect people to go through, including that their stuff is actually open source, and that they actually use the Aqua testing against their binaries, and there's several other kind of criteria. Anyway, some initial discussions will happen at Oracle Code 1. I'll put the link to the TSE issue in the minutes here for people to follow that. That's all I had.
Thanks, Shelley. Any questions around adopt? Okay. For the contributor teams that we've been looking at, the first chunk of that work has landed, so you can now add people to a contributor team, but the piece that syncs that across to the GitHub API is not available yet. So we've got the first stage there, but are still waiting for the rest of the syncing to be available. I've lined Toby up to be our first guinea pig on that, and so I've added him to the project page as a contributor, and we'll see how soon the GitHub side of this comes along and the sync scripts come along to add him.
I've noticed that, at least for issues, as long as anyone comments on an issue, you can actually assign them.
Any commenter can be assigned?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, because we've seen this in the past that the person who created the issue can be assigned to it.
Right. Yeah. So they changed that recently. I think it was about a month or so back.
Okay, that's a great improvement there too. Something to be aware of as people are working on issues, that we start taking advantage of that. Thanks, Philip. As Adam stated earlier, he's not able to make the call today, but he has provided an update. So there's an Eclipse bug around updating the website and the doc builds. They've been doing things on master and needed to be moved off. Not sure what the state of that is, but details are there if we want to look. In terms of other updates from Adam here, we do have an ARM machine. A big thank you to Packet for providing that. So we have one executor right now. It's quite a beefy machine, so we may need to look at ways to split that machine up or run multiple executors on it without interfering with each other. But at this point, we have PR builds for ARM. Is Sue on the call to provide an update on the website design review? I don't see her. I know she and a website and a team have been working on redesigning the website, and they have somebody who started to look at putting together the new pages. There's a link here to a very early draft of it. Please check it out, and if you have feedback, be happy to hear that and incorporate it. Is there any other business people would like to discuss this week?
Question for Shelley if she's still on.
Yeah.
The grinder link, is that supposed to work at OpenJ9, Jenkins?
It will work eventually. We have to add a plugin at that server, and now that they've changed the way we no longer have admin privileges, so we have to put a pull request in or a request in to get the plugin. Lan was talking about that yesterday, so I'll follow up to make sure that happens. And I think we'll change as per Adam's suggestion. Right now, the link is set with the adopt server, and you'd have to manually swap in the server name if you want to use it elsewhere. We'll just change it to use the Jenkins URL variable so that anyone should be able to grab the link for the place that the test was run at. Still doesn't help you if it was run at OpenJ9 and then you want to run it at HYC Jenkins. You'll still have to swap it manually, but it's a little bit better than hard code.
What about, is it possible to set the test target automatically as well?
We do that. It's in the link. It sets the target that fails. So say you ran sanity functional, but float sanity test target failed, it'll fill the target in as part of the grinder link.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I'm going to be doing a triage tutorial next week. I'll invite everybody, I guess, or I can redo it in the OpenJ9 call for kind of best practice triage. We have slight differences between adopt and OpenJ9, mainly in the fact that one uses Artifactory, one doesn't, but everything else should be the same. So we're trying to standardize how triage happens to make it easier for developers.
Okay.
I have to drop. I have another call I have to be on.
Thanks, Shelley. I've tentatively scheduled you into the lightning talks.
Okay, perfect. I'll confirm by end of day. Thanks.
Is there any other topics that we need to discuss this week? All right. Thank you then, everyone, and we'll chat again next week.
Thanks.